Cruise Norway is pleased to be presenting HX Expeditions to you today, and it is my pleasure to turn it over to Gordon Durker. He is the Senior Vice President and General Manager at Cruise Norway. Gordon, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. And my presentation is going to be very short. It's just extending a very warm welcome to everybody today, taking a little time to learn about HX. Cruise Norway Worldwide Expeditions has been working with HX for close to 30 years. It's one of our highly preferred partners. And yeah, we send a lot of happy customers their way, and you will shortly learn why those customers are happy. HX's history is a lot longer than ours, which our guest speakers will be building on. And you will hopefully learn that if you are looking to explore the world, HX is one of the best options to do it with. And Cruise Norway is here at your disposal to obviously facilitate all those bookings that you would love to make with HX. But without further ado, I want to introduce our guest speakers. Alex McNeil, all the way live from, I think you're in Canada at the moment, because this gentleman travels literally, if it's Tuesday, he's in some other country. And then we have Aidan Flood, who is our business development manager based also on the East Coast, supporting him during this presentation. So we're super honored, very excited to have both of them here. And I know that you all will walk away with a lot of knowledge and probably a bigger itch than ever to want to explore with HX. So Alex, over to you.
Very good. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Lee. It's a pleasure to be here. Greetings from Toronto, Canada, everybody. And super excited to take you through this journey we're going to share together over the next half an hour or so. So you might have different expectations, I imagine you do, of what this is going to be. And my number one objective is for this to feel different. The way I like to approach these presentations is more of a narrative arc, more of a storytelling mindset. So I'm going to try and take you on a journey. This probably won't feel like a sales presentation, because it's not. It's a story about the journey that I've had in this incredible industry, the expedition cruise industry, over the past 2 decades, and a little bit of illumination of what we do at HX. So let's dive into it. So the starting point of our story is quite familiar to all of us, or most of us at the very least. These urban settings that we call home, where we live in an age of control and connectivity. This means, largely our urban environments are artificial, are controlled, whether we might live in proximity to green space or wilderness, but we have kind of agency over what we do when we do it. Within these environments, and probably some of you on this call will fall into this category, there are those of us that are driven by desire to do something different. And we're not enticed by the common destinations, the areas that are on the tip of everyone's tongue. We're drawn to the extraordinary. And these are the wanderers, the storytellers. And when I say storytellers, I do want you to have someone in mind, whether it's yourself or someone in your circle of friends. But I don't want you to think of the most charismatic person or the funniest person. I want you to think of people who like to have conversations of substance, who not only talk about the weather or their favorite TV show, but talk about life experiences, curiosities. They're constantly learning, because these are the knowledge seekers. And whether you're having it now, or whether you'll have it during this presentation, or you've had it in preparation for this, or maybe a few months ago or a few years ago, for all of us on this journey, there's a moment of discovery. And this moment of discovery is realizing that there are these fantastic places, these fascinating, fantastical destinations that maybe previously only existed in our imaginations, that are actually accessible, that you can go to, whether it's Antarctica or Greenland, Svalbard, these kind of mystical names that are kind of on the edge of our frames of reference, but very much stimulating to our curiosity. And even this process is the beginning of what I like to call a rediscovery of childhood wonder. When we're growing up, and many of us will have young people in our lives, you're experiencing things for the first time. You're ignited by the world unfolding around you. And as we get older, those experiences become less frequent, more distant, but they still exist. And expedition cruising is a fascinating way to reignite that sense of childhood wonder in all of us, all generations. And sometimes those experiences can be shared across generations. And this brings us to the first crossroads in our story, which is the next realization is you can really go that, you can do that, you can go there. These places are actually possible to visit. I mean, that's how I felt almost 20 years ago when I had the opportunity to go to Antarctica, featured on the screen here. I thought, that's crazy. How could that be possible? And this twist of fate is the next reaction, which comes almost immediately after, is, but surely that's too good to be true. You have to be a kind of a bearded brute or a suave Scandinavian explorer like this gentleman featured here. You have to have climbed mountains or run marathons, whatever it might be. This is an experience reserved for the fit and the ultimately adventurous. But the reality is that this is an incorrect assumption, especially now. And these destinations are more accessible than ever, still just as fantastic and phenomenal, but they're accessible in a degree of comfort that you can enjoy them and savor them no matter what your ability or level of interest is. Then comes the next crossroads. And this is where our hero's journey really begins, because you've discovered this experience that sparked your curiosity, that sparked your imagination. You've maybe chosen a destination that inspires you, but now you have to navigate this landscape of different opportunities to get there. We're not the only company that goes to these destinations, or many of the destinations that we go to. And thus begins the next chapter in this journey, which is navigating this decision process of who to choose to bring these dreams to life. And luckily for you, you're connected with a fantastic travel agency at Cruise Norway who can help guide you on that decision, wherever you want to go in the world. But fundamentally, at this crossroads, one of the decisions that people have to make is whether to prioritize style or substance, indulgence or insight as your area of focus. And we at HX are clearly on the right-hand side of this spectrum. And the reality is some people will choose an indulgence over substance and insight. And this begins the process that I like to call the privilege and burden of choice. If you're considering a trip like this, if destinations like those in our portfolio have sparked your imagination, you have reached a point in your lives where you've achieved a certain level of accomplishment, whether it's the time to spend to go on trips like this, or points in your careers, or you have the disposable income that allows you the privilege to consider these as part of your next adventure in the years ahead. Now, I'll take a quick deviation in this story and speak about my role. My name's Alex McNeil, as Gordon said. I've had the pleasure of meeting Gordon in person twice, once in New York, and then a few months ago in Seattle, which was fantastic. As I said, I've been in this industry for close to 20 years. I've done over 200 expeditions on 24 different expedition vessels, taken travelers from all corners of the world to some of our planet's greatest wildernesses. I've stood at the geographic North Pole on 14 separate occasions. I've pioneered new programs in collaboration with remote communities. And there is a reason why I'm standing here as an executive at HX. My title is the Chief Expedition Officer. Never thought that would be my job title, or that job title would even exist when I was a kid. But there's a reason that I wear this brand on my chest. It's because of the values this company embodies, the values we live by, the heritage that we carry with us and share with our guests at every touch point along the journey. And if there's three things we want you to remember about us at HX, the first is, Gordon referenced it, we've been doing this a very long time. We've been experts in expedition since 1896. We're made for curious travelers. This is about that sense of childhood wonder, that curiosity that drives us to learn and grow through travel. And we're the leaders in mindful adventure. Those are the three things that distinguish us more than anything else amongst that ecosystem of companies that you can choose from. And I wanted to go into detail about a little bit of what each of these means and what it means to me. The first one, experts in expedition, I think is best embodied by the skill and capability of our marine operations team, the people who are in charge behind the scenes, also who are part of your experience when you're on board an HX ship, the professionalism and caliber of our captains and navigators is unprecedented. All of my journeys around the corners of the world, sailing to obscure places on small ships and medium-sized ships, the HX officers, captains, engineers are just in a league of their own. And this is partially because they're part of this long-standing heritage of maritime excellence that began almost 130 years ago, when this famous expedition, the Fram expedition of 1893 to 1896, led by none other than Fridtjof Nansen, whose name is emblazoned on one of our flagships, tried to achieve the North Pole and failed. And when he returned, after 3 years, his captain, Otto Sverdrup, featured there on the left, after just a few months on shore, became HX's first captain and sailed paying customers from the coast of Norway up to the archipelago of Svalbard, a destination that we still travel to this day. So this is a legacy that's carried forward that really emboldens us and enables us to explore these obscure parts of the world and have people be along for that journey. You're not just an observer, you're a participant. You're part of these chapters of our history, and our exploration that was inspired all of those years ago continues today on every HX voyage. The next pillar is that we're made for curious travelers. So travel in itself, it's all about learning and discovery. It's one of the main things that drives us, that it inspires us to leave our homes, to leave our cities or our countries and experience something new. It's this widening of our perspective, both through knowledge seeking, whether it's kind of academic or understood knowledge from world-leading experts, to then be applied out in the wilderness. Out not only learning about these places, but experiencing them and letting them resonate with you because you understand them more deeply. And the last pillar is that we're the leaders in mindful adventure. Now that has multiple dimensions. Most commonly, what we refer to or what we take great pride in is our sustainability credentials. But to me, sustainability is not just about emissions or waste or efficiency. It's about people. It's about people welcoming you to their homes, people joining you on their adventures and telling their stories that have been a part of their heritage, often for thousands of years. This is a picture taken in April 2024, where I had the privilege of joining a delegation of Inuit travel leaders to a remote community in East Greenland. This community, which is called Hurtigruten, has around 300 residents, and they're visited by around 40 expedition cruise ships per year. And the community reached out to an organization that receives funding from the HX Foundation and said, we want to transform our tourism strategy. We want to be more engaged with these visitors. We want to get to know them more closely. We want to expand the benefits that we can give to the visitors and also that we can receive socially and economically. And one of the things that stands out most to me about this trip that I was a part of over a span of weeks and at the end of their winter season was that if you look at this picture, as part of that delegation, I'm the only non-Inuit person. So Inutek, Kimernak, Mariah, and Salik were there as leaders in their field, approaching this community engagement, community development project within their own language, their own culture, on their own level, and leveraging my expertise as someone who's been in the industry and can contribute in a different way. And this engagement alone resulted in an increase of 400% in the amount of people in the community that were engaged in future visits and the economic opportunities that engagement provided. And in a time when many destinations around the world are reconsidering their relationship with tourism, places like Greenland, like Alaska, like South America, or Svalbard, the Norwegian coast, are becoming more engaged with expedition travel through initiatives like this. And we are on the forefront in all of our destinations on ensuring that we really integrate and incorporate local perspectives so that you're welcome with smiles like this one. I've told you a little bit about what we are, but I also want to tell you a little bit about what we are not to help frame the HX story. So we are not mainstream cruising. We are not micro cruising. We exist in the middle, in what we call the perfect balance, which is a harmony between these three dimensions, which I'll talk about a bit more later. And our two flagships, Roald Amundsen and Fridtjof Nansen, embody this balance, which is so crucial to them being such a core part of not only our fleet, but the expedition cruise industry overall. And these ships are in a league of their own. This is a representation of the expedition fleet. The vast majority of ships sailing to these destinations operate in this 100 to 200 passenger capacity limit. And make no mistake about it, for people who are interested in those kind of experiences or that kind of intimate shipboard environment, we actually have 3 ships that fall into that category: Santa Cruz at 90 passengers, Spitsbergen at 150, and Fram at 200. But Amundsen and Nansen have the capacity to be better because they offer an uncompromising experience where you don't have to sacrifice in any of these dimensions. So adventure means getting off the ship, getting the richest experience out of the destinations. Comfort means that you're able to come back to a well-appointed cabin, that you've got an abundance of amenities, that your ship has a degree of stability in inclement weather and all of these things. And then we're the unchallenged leaders in sustainability and have been for the past decade. Now, I'd also like to say that within the expedition cruise industry, it is more than possible to over-index in some of these areas at the expense of others. So if you want the longest wine list in the Southern Ocean, or if your number one priority is the amount of thread count on your bed sheets, then you can over-index on comfort. And there are some ultra luxury operators that will allow you to accommodate that. But that almost always comes at the expense of the adventure and sustainability. Or if you want to go, mountain climbing or scuba diving and over-index on adventure at the expense of comfort and sustainability, those options are also available to you. And that's why we feel the perfect balance is the best uncompromising way to experience these destinations, because you get all of these things wrapped up in perfect harmony with one another. And so here's some words on a slide, but what does that actually feel like? It feels like the perfect balance between comfort and adventure, where you can go off and explore these inspiring destinations and come back to levels of uncompromising comfort, where you have an abundance of amenities that aren't the main feature. We don't have any casinos on our ships. We don't have 10 restaurants, but our ships are extremely well appointed, and you will never feel like you've compromised on the comfort of your experience. That's balanced by uncompromising adventures and destinations like this at the 14th of July Glacier in Svalbard, or hiking serene shorelines in Antarctica, traveling new waterways through our kayak program, which we offer on every single one of our ships, staying out late with locals, and this is one of our new programs in northern Norway, and watching the northern lights dance above the Arctic sky. It's about finding new trails with our expert guides and standing at the summit of some of the most awe-inspiring vistas. Not once while on our ships does anyone feel like they've compromised on those adventures. And as I mentioned, we're the undisputed leaders in sustainability in the industry. And I would just like to pause and celebrate one of our competitors. We're one of only 2 companies that have published detailed metrics about sustainability insights. The other one being a French company, Ponant, who do give preference to the comfort side of that dimension that I showed you. But we're really proud that they followed in our footsteps and have published these detailed metrics. And we hope that other companies will do so in the coming years, where a few companies have started publishing impact reports that are good for storytelling, but they don't give transparent details as to what their footprints actually are. Okay, you've come out of this labyrinth. You've made the decision to travel with HX, and what does that experience actually feel like? That is the dawn of a life-changing adventure, where the experiences you have will widen your eyes to the natural wonders of the world and inspire you. You will come back from these experiences changed. Your days will be filled with discovery while you revel in the grand and majestic, the absolutely sublime. And you'll share these experiences with like-minded explorers who have gone through that journey just as you have, and chosen HX because, like me, what we are offering aligns with your curiosity and your values and represents the way that you want to travel to these fantastic destinations. So we hope you'll let us take you beyond your imagination. And I often get asked what my favorite destinations are. And so I'd like to spend the last few minutes here just sharing a few of the places that have captured a piece of my heart. And the first one I have to start with is Greenland. Greenland is like nothing else in the world. It is a place of every extremities of kind of heartfelt hospitality, absolutely, unrecognizable environments. And I've used this phrase here, nostalgia for the light. I've actually stole it from a documentary about the Atacama Desert that was released some years ago, a great documentary, but you just stand in reverence of these like fantastic icescapes in the summer months when we travel there are perfectly accentuated by these cascading sunsets of pinks and purples and oranges. Sometimes they last so long in the midnight sun that sunset actually blends into sunrise. They're not actually detached by periods of darkness. So you can picture yourself as this figure here just being awestruck at the grandeur of that destination. We offer itineraries that visit every corner of Greenland that's accessible by ship, from the northeast, where that community of Hurtigruten is located, through the southern coast. And we have some fantastic itineraries around Disco Bay and Umanak, some of which go as far north as Anak and Thule in the far northwest. And Greenland is just this place of extreme natural beauty with absolutely spiraling mountains that just shoot up from the sea. But it's also a place that's filled with a rich cultural heritage and a sense of community. The people in Greenland are the most hospitable people I've ever had the pleasure of visiting. And we are inspired of the explorers that we came of age alongside, explorers like Fridtjof Nansen and Roald Amundsen, who were amongst the first Europeans who had reverence towards indigenous knowledge. They didn't consider themselves superior. They realized the capacity and ingenuity of the local people who helped enable their success. We see things 130 years later as being no different. There is no one else who knows these destinations better than the people who've lived there, and we always work to incorporate them into our programs. I told you about the project we had in East Greenland. Here's another dimension of it. We incorporated the 70 children that are there at the school in East Greenland, and whether it's in East Greenland or South Greenland or West Greenland or Alaska or Central or South America or Norway, this is an approach we take no matter where we go. And Greenland is certainly a stunning example of it. The other thing I love about Greenland is it's, up until recently, certainly, one of the best kept secrets. Because if you look at these statistics, the taller bar there is the amount of people who visit Iceland on an annual basis, which before the pandemic peaked at over 2 million. It's since recovered to that and more. Meanwhile, Greenland, which is right next door to Iceland, which is 20 times larger, has a fraction of the visitors that go there. And so while at times I love Iceland, but sometimes it can seem overcrowded, right next door is this fantastic destination, which you can explore in the most dynamic way on board an expedition cruise ship through a range of different experiences. No day isn't action-packed, and you can choose to combine experiences based on your level of interest and curiosity. We're also the only company to have established a partnership with the national airline, Air Greenland. And we're also the only company who this summer leveraged a new pathway to get to Greenland from the United States through United Airlines, who is flying from Newark to Nuuk, and that'll continue into next year. My favorite itinerary in Greenland is this one, the Grand Greenland Mythical Lands of the North. It starts and finishes in Nuuk. You can see the plane line there from Reykjavik, but we also have flights coming in from Copenhagen and from Newark. Again, that'll be available next summer. And this just gives the best experience that anyone could ask for in Greenland. You go way up to the remote northwest. We had Alakatsiak Piri, on board this summer, and he'll be back next year. He's the great-grandson of Robert Peary, the famous American explorer who claimed to be one of the first to reach the geographic North Pole many years ago. We also have a culinary program led by the chefs pictured here, Lasse and Nungoak, who bring the destination to life through food. And this is just scratching the surface. Okay, that's Greenland. Spend the last few minutes talking about my second favorite destination, which is Antarctica. And this is literally the closest you can come to visiting another planet without actually having to leave planet Earth. It is absolutely awe-inspiring and kind of recalibrates your sense of scale. There are so many different dimensions to this destination. The one that I'd like to focus on for a moment is its governance. Antarctica is geopolitically unique in the world. It is governed by no single nation. It is of continental scale, that is governed by a treaty that was established in the peak of the Cold War, where over 50 nations came together to commit to preserving this great wilderness for the purposes of peace and science, for the benefit and progress of all mankind. And this is a destination that our program aligns with perfectly. And that concept of balance, both with our light environmental footprint, but also our focus on science, which are embodied by the science centers, which are the core of each of our ships. You saw a picture earlier of our science center on board Nansen, and every single HX voyage has a scientific dimension. Actually, just the other day, on Monday of this week, I saw an email come through where our chief scientist, Verena Maraldi, was finalizing placements for over 100 scientists to be on board HX's voyages throughout the course of this coming Antarctic season from November to March. 100 active scientific research programs are going to be incorporated alongside and integrated with our guest experiences. You won't be surprised to know that Antarctica is a place of immense natural beauty, both kind of geographically, but also ecologically, with the abundant wildlife populations that frequent the Antarctic Peninsula in summer. It's also a place that, while they have no indigenous population, there is culture and community in Antarctica with the science bases that we sail past and occasionally get to visit, or the settlements on the sub-Antarctic islands like this one in the bottom left in Stanley and the Falkland Islands. And then, of course, on the top right is one of a few monuments that exists in Antarctica that kind of commemorates the stories of the great explorers from the heroic age of exploration. And those stories are brought to life, and that you get to kind of feel a part of history by walking in their footsteps, whether it's Ernest Shackleton or Roald Amundsen, Robert Falcon Scott. Those stories are a big part of this destination. And our program, as I've mentioned, is really integrated within the science and sustainability. Antarctica has a lot of active adventures, but make no mistake about it, there's something for everyone. But every day is full with opportunity for you to choose and customize your experience to suit your needs. So we get a lot of multi-generational families, a lot of people of varying abilities, whether it's people in their 30s or people later in life who are enjoying their retirement and going down and kind of rediscovering themselves and their own senses of adventure after a long and prosperous career. Before I wrap up on Antarctica, I wanted to speak about the destination in a different way, which is what it feels like to be there. I've been to Antarctica over 100 times, and these are some of the feelings that resonate with me. When you're in Antarctica, there's a feeling of abundance, of the immensity of nature. In the summer, the penguin populations, the whales, return from their northern migrations to feed on the biologically rich waters around the Antarctic Peninsula. And just being there, you feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. This feeling of abundance is one. There's also a feeling of movement, especially if you go early in the season. This is when you get scenes like this one on the left here, where you get tens of thousands of penguins migrating back to their seasonal nesting grounds. You stand there in reverence as the penguins just stream past you. It's like being part of one of the great migrations in the animal kingdom. There's a feeling of reverence you probably sensed from my comments about Greenland earlier. I'm obsessed with the changing light of these destinations, especially in the polar regions where you get this blend between sunset and sunrise. So I call it daybreak, which is kind of the combination of both. This is actually a picture from my first trip to Antarctica in 2007. And I was having dinner with three lovely couples who were having a great time getting to know each other. And we saw the sun starting to set, and a few people said, "Oh, I've got to go get my camera and go off." And I thought, well, I'll be polite, and I'm working as a guide, and I want to be respectful and not run off and get my camera. We kept on talking for half an hour, 45 minutes. Another hour went by, and I thought, okay, I'm going to miss the sunset. This picture was actually taken 3 hours later. We thought the climax of the sunset was happening, and it just grew so slowly. And this is actually its apex before it started increasing in intensity again. And this is actually taken on a film camera, as you probably see by the cranius. Antarctica has a feeling of intimacy. The animals who call this place home have little to no fear of humans. We don't approach the animals, we allow them to approach us. So whether you stop your boat or find a place to sit on shore, more than often you'll be approached by a penguin chick pecking at your boot, or a seal checking you out underwater from your Zodiac, or a minke whale, like in this picture here in Nico Harbor. There's also a feeling of belonging because you're sharing this experience with like-minded explorers, people who've chosen to go to the ends of the earth, and exploring, with people who are of the same mindset. I think is a rarity in this world. There are very few trips that you can do where you have such an immediate synergy with the people around you. You get a feeling of modesty in Antarctica. It really reminds us of our place in this world. The abundance, the immensity of it kind of humbles us and reminds us that we're not in control of everything, that nature still has a really important role, and that we're just a part of a much wider ecosystem. And finally, Antarctica gives you a feeling of spontaneity, of living in the moment. All plans are changeable. All plans are depending on the weather and the ice, and there's opportunities to go out or to extend excursions or to change destinations, to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. In expedition cruising, there is rarely a set itinerary. There's plan A, plan B, plan C, D, E, F. And by the time you come to the end of your Antarctic expedition, you will understand the meaning and the value of spontaneity. Those are my two favorite destinations. We have plenty of other destinations you could go to with HX, whether it's Alaska or Galápagos, the British Isles, Northern Norway, Central America, South America, and many other places in between. But those are just some of my favorite. As we bring this story to an end, I just want to share one final reflection with you, which is, in addition to people asking me, what's your favorite destination? People also ask me, what's your favorite experience? And my answer is always, favorite experiences are having the opportunity to be in the proximity of the great ocean whales. They're here in Southeast Alaska, whether in the Antarctic Peninsula. And this is a story that I love to tell. This is from 2012, earlier in my career. I was out for a Zodiac cruise with a group of passengers. I was actually in the boat that took this picture. We're in a place called Wilhelmina Bay. We saw these two humpback whales, 400 or 500 meters away from us, just going about their business. You could hear them blowing. The water was so still. It's like you could hear a pin drop. And we watched them for a few minutes, and then they dove underwater. And me and the other driver, we had our engines off, so we were listening very acutely. Let's just wait. Let's just wait a few minutes and see what happens. 6 or 7 minutes later, everyone waiting patiently, and urgently trying to get anywhere, just soaking it all in. There was this feeling, and all of a sudden the surface of the water broke, and this head started to rise up beside the Zodiac, like an island being born out of the ocean. They went, 3 feet, 5 feet, 7 feet, until it got about 15 feet in the air. And the last thing that came out of the water was this bowling ball eye. And just as gracefully as it came up, slowly went down beneath the water until it was no more. The whole experience lasted maybe 60 seconds. And at the end of it, you could just hear, oh, Everyone exhaled. Most people started crying. And it was just the most reverential, kind of religious experience to be in such close proximity to these graceful creatures, these humpback whales. And this is a special moment. Every voyage has a special moment like this. These are not uncommon, whether, like I was saying, it's a penguin pecking at your boots, or seeing a seal feeding its pup, or sniffing at the air a few feet from you, or penguins bringing stones back to their nests, or blue-footed boobies in the Galápagos. There's an abundance of these really intimate wildlife encounters that are part of every single one of our voyages. And so I'll leave you with that, and I'll also leave you with a passage from a book called The Outermost House, which is written by an American author, Henry Beston, which I think contextualizes these experiences. And it goes, "We need a wiser, perhaps more mystical concept of animals. Remote from universal nature and living by complicated artifice, man surveys the creature through the glass of our knowledge, and sees thereby only a feather magnified in the whole image in distortion. We patronize them for their incompleteness, for their tragic fate of having taken form so far below ourselves. And therein we err, and greatly err, for the animal shall not be judged by man. In a world older than ours, they move finished and complete, gifted with extensions of the senses we have lost or never attained, living by voices we shall never hear. They are not brethren, they are not underlings. They are other nations with us in the net of life and time, fellow prisoners of the splendor and travail of the earth." I hope this has illuminated the HX experience for you a bit. I hope this has demystified some elements of expedition cruising, and I truly hope we have the opportunity to welcome you to one of our special corners of the world. It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you here today. Over to Aidan.
Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Alex. I could listen to you talk for days. It's so good. Thank you for sharing your experiences and a little bit more about HX. For those of you who have stuck around on the call, thank you so much. Marianne, we will get to your question.
Whoop, did Aidan just freeze on us?
Maybe. He's frozen for me.
Yeah, he is for me too. He is for me too. Maybe we'll have you. Do you have his information, Alex?
It's been running since September 1st, and we'll be.
Aidan?
Just
We
came
lost
back.
you there for a minute.
We lost you at the beginning, and you just came back. Yeah. So maybe start from the top.
I'm so sorry. Sorry to take it back. Marianne, thank you so much for the questions in the chat. Everybody else, if you do have questions, please start flooding the chat. We would love to address some of those. But I do just want to mention some exciting stuff that we have going on this fall at HX. So to begin, we do have some incredibly discounted sailings, up to $2,500 off per person. Not every sailing will be $2,500 off per person, but it will be up to. So take a look at the Cruise Norway website. You will see a slash through price there and then the new price below it. But some incredible opportunities off the bat, some that I can name that are very discounted: Alaska, Norway, Iceland, and we do have some really great Antarctica opportunities. Not only that, but we are currently running our HX Explorers sale. So just this month in October, any new HX Explorers will receive 5% off their booking. Anybody who is a returning explorer with us will receive 10% off of their booking, and this will come off of those discounted prices. Now, I do want to mention that this is backed with our Black Friday promise. So there's really no better time to book with HX. Lock in your rate. Sailings are limited and we are filling cabins very quickly. So if this is something that you would like to do, please contact Cruise Norway or visit their website to get your voyage booked. Now, I do want to mention just a few of our promotions that we have. AARP, if you are an AARP member, you get 5% off of your cruise. That is combinable with the October discounts, and you will also get an additional onboard credit of $100 per person. The other promotion that we have, however, these are not combinable, is Audubon. If you are an Audubon member, you can get 5% off of your voyage. We do also have some Audubon voyages that are sponsored, and Audubon members will get 10% off. Just a quick reminder, Audubon and AARP are not combinable with each other. I do also like to highlight the solo experience with HX because this is something that I think we accommodate really well. For those of you who are cruisers, you probably are familiar. There's a crazy thing in the industry called a solo supplement. If you're traveling solo, you typically have to pay a good portion of a secondary traveler because the company is missing out on revenue there. So needless to say, our team looks at our sailing capacities. We publish a list at the beginning of every month, and we send that to the Cruise Norway team. So if you have any solo travelers, if you yourself are a solo traveler, please reach out to one of the Cruise Advisor agents because we have an incredible opportunity where there is no solo supplement at all. So these sailings are typically 7 or 8 months out. So if you're able to travel and kind of make plans on a dime, there are some really great opportunities where you're not going to have to pay that solo supplement. Last but not least, thank you so much for joining this webinar today. We really value all of you as Cruise Norway clients. And because of that, Cruise Norway is actually allowing us to double their onboard expedition ship offering. So we will double our onboard credit. Typically, it is 90 euros or $100 per person, just depending on what region you are sailing in. Because you have attended the show today, any bookings that are made within the next 4 weeks, so up until October 5th, we are going to do an exclusive show special. So we will double that offer. Again, please reach out to your Cruise Norway agent or visit their website for a quote. We would love to have you come sail with us. And with that, I ask that you change the way that you see the world. I had the privilege of going to Alaska this past May. Alex has been all over the world countless times. It really does change your appreciation for the world, the nature, the animals around you, and it will change the way that you want to travel moving forward. So with that, I'd love to open it up to some questions. I know that Marianne had some questions in the chat, so let's take a peek there.
See it, Hayden, I'm happy to take these ones.
Yeah.
So there's 2 questions that are actually very similar to each other, but we'll answer them both individually. So the first one is, how many times per day can each passenger expect to get off the ship, either to walk or land in Zodiac, weather permitting? And the answer is, it's always our goal to have a minimum of 2 excursions per day. So 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Sometimes, depending on the destination, you might focus on a single outing. That's more commonly in areas that are less wilderness focused, where there's kind of remote communities or ports or things like that, and greater distances between. But in our kind of core destinations, whether it's Greenland or Antarctica or Svalbard, it's always our aim to get people off 2 per day. The second question is, I thought the higher capacity of the ship, the less number of times that each passenger can expect to get off the ship, especially in Antarctica. Is this true? Can you explain? So there's a few dimensions to this. Like we said, we offer up to 2 excursions. That's our target, 2 excursions per day. And the compromise, the larger ship you have, is about the time you spend on shore, perhaps. Not necessarily off the ship, but on shore. Where for us, on average, our passengers will spend an hour and 15 minutes on shore. And if you're on a smaller ship, that can be extended to an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes. Now, a few things about that. The first one is that when we talk about the perfect balance, in order to get that extra half an hour or 45 minutes, whatever it might be, you have to compromise on the comfort of the ship, because the ships are smaller, they have less amenities, the cabins are not as well appointed, and the carbon footprint goes up because it's about the same economics of energy to get that amount of people down there as it is a larger ship. And we do have ships, by the way. We do have ships in that category. So Santa Cruz, Spitsbergen, and Fram. If you really want to prioritize time off the ship, then you can choose one of those smaller ships. But I will tell you that our guests do not feel like they've compromised on anything when they sail aboard Amundsen and Nansen. In fact, in some cases, in some destinations, including Antarctica, Amundsen and Nansen achieve higher customer survey scores for the experiences that they're able to offer than our smaller ships. And that's kind of the embodiment of the destination, where I've taken thousands of people to Antarctica. The vast majority of them, when they go to these constrained landing sites, because Antarctica is 95% glaciated, there isn't these kind of vast areas that you can go and explore. But in Antarctica specifically, that's typically the amount of time people will spend on shore. So usually, even with the less constraints on time, the majority of people would go into the Zodiac or back to the ship after 45 minutes or an hour anyway. So if either you or your friends or contacts, people you want to travel with, or really want to prioritize time off the ship, then I recommend one of the smaller ships in our fleet. But don't for a moment think that you'll be compromising on your off-ship experiences, because the Amundsen and Nansen experience is really rich.
Alex, we have some questions around mobility and fitness. I can take a whack at this and you can add some color where it makes sense. But I think a big thing here is when people hear the word expedition, they automatically get up in arms and they think, oh, that could be a little bit strenuous. I think I need to be super fit or in the peak of my life. And that's really not the case. With all the activities that we do, with all the guided wildlife hikes, we do really try to cater that to our demographic of clientele. A lot of our cruisers are going to be 50 plus. These are people who are in the tail end of their careers who have that exposable income. So if you can do a simple set of about 5 or 6 stairs, you're able to get down to the tender pit, which is where we launch those Zodiacs. And from there, the expedition team helps you out with that sailor's grip, making sure that they have a very sturdy grip on you getting into the Zodiac. It's as simple as taking a step onto the side, a step onto the base, and then popping a squat on the side. So just to give you a little bit of context, I was in Alaska in May, and I actually had an 85-year-old woman from London sitting next to me, laughing her rear end off, having the time of her life. So it can be very accessible. For those who are in wheelchairs, we do have wheelchair accessible rooms and ships. On our 2 largest ships, we do have elevators available, but in terms of getting them into the Zodiac, that may be a little bit of an issue. But mobility, as long as you can do a simple set of stairs, you're going to be just fine there. Alex, anything to add on the mobility and accessibility?
No, I mean, we have some great accessibility cabins. So some American Disability Association rated cabins. I think there's 4 of them on Amundsen and Nansen. So this is mostly for our ships are both a gateway into expedition cruising for people who don't want to be doing the mountaineering and the scuba diving, but also a chance for groups of different generations, grandparents who want to travel with their children or their grandchildren, so that everyone can have kind of an equal experience and no one feels marginalized.
Awesome. I do see another question around age of travelers. What's the youngest? What's the oldest? I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I think, well, I get this question in 2 directions. What are our actual age limits? It varies between 6 and 8, depending on the destination. I think there's certain destinations that don't have an age limit, like the British Isles. Maybe you could speak to that. Because we have our science program, it's something that kids or younger people are really interested in. And so destinations that are more science focused, like Antarctica or Greenland, that usually caters to like the curious minded kind of 8 to 12-year-olds. For younger kids, I recommend the Galápagos, where it's just, those days are super active, super full, regardless of the trip duration you're on. And because of the kind of comforts of the destination being very temperate at the equator, those are a great option for younger families or families looking for more active adventures. Hey, do you want to add to that?
No, I would just say that I try to use best judgment there. We don't have a daycare on board. However, we are constantly running different lectures, different experiments in the science center. We're also doing arts and crafts activities with the expedition team. So there's a number of hands-on activities. If you have kids who are into the outdoors, they love nature, they love the wilderness, I mean, there's no better trip for them. In terms of an oldest, do we have a limit on oldest travelers or a limit there?
No age limit. It's all based on physical ability, and then we're able to have a conversation based on the destination and providing you with the best experience. But there's no specific age limit, and we do have the capacity to accommodate people who are less mobile and in small numbers, and they have great experiences as well.
Fantastic. I have a question here about language spoken on board. The primary language on our ships is English. We do cater to other languages around the world. I know that we will sometimes have lectures in French or German. I'm not sure. Do we go much further than that, Alex? Have you seen any others offered?
No, we have small portions of our inventory that we offer to Chinese guests. It's right now, depending on the destination, it's around 20% is the maximum amount of guests from China. So we distribute those numbers more evenly around the fleet and don't have a kind of a dominant nationality. So the dominant language is definitely English. Occasionally there'll be presentations in French or German. And then on select sailings, Mandarin might also be there for small groups from China.
Awesome. And then I do just want to kind of circle back to the solo travelers, just highlight that experience a little bit more. I know I have a question here on that. In terms of the solo experience, we try to make sure that you are in a community of folks. When you're on the ship, we welcome everybody into a little cocktail reception, any of our solo travelers. You'll be introduced to everybody. We try to create that community, that sense of familiarity. When you go to dine, you'll have the option of dining either alone or with other solo travelers. We don't have a shared cabin program, so when you book your own cabin, that is just yours. You will not be bunking with anybody else. But again, to double back on the solo supplement portion, we release a list at the beginning of every month of sailings that are 6 to 7 months out, and we waive the solo supplement completely. So you pay that per person price that you will see on the website and not a dime more. We see how crazy some of those solo supplements are in the travel industry, and we really do aim to make this accessible to solo travelers. So keep in mind, this is not across all of our sailings. This is across select sailings. But if you do have any questions for the sailings that have that no solo supplement waived, please reach out to your Cruise Norway agent, and they do have that list ready and available.
All right, gents. Well, yeah, I'm very excited. I was excited before this presentation, Alex and Aidan, to have you both represent Cruise Norway. You guys did an amazing job. I always get goosebumps, and the destinations you guys visit and highlight. I've been to quite a few of them myself, and it's at the end of the day when you look at your fellow travelers and you start high-fiving each other because of the experiences that you had together, that only you can understand because you were there together, you lived those experiences together, and you have the goosebumps and the tears at the end of the trip running. These are the type of trips that HX operates, and we love selling these. Our guests always come back with many stories to tell, and I hope that we managed. I know that I always am inspired when I listen to you guys, but I hope we managed to inspire some others to come and join you and live these expeditions and adventures themselves, because yeah, it's fantastic. So appreciate it. And thank you once again, everybody, Lee as well, for hosting another wonderful professionally hosted session. And we look forward to see many of you on board. This session will be recorded, so if you want to revisit it, it will go onto our YouTube channel, and we will also email you the link. And of course, all the contact details of where to find your favorite Cruise Norway agent and all those specials that Aidan highlighted. So thank you once again. Have a lovely day and safe travels, and keep exploring. That's what we want to do.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having us, Gordon. Have a good one.